Let us now take the fifth model from percentages, where we are supposed to find out what percentage more or less is one value with respect to some other value. For example, the question may be in the form of x is what percent more or less than y. So as you can see here, we are trying to compare x with y, and here we need to find out x is how much more or less in terms of percentage when compared to y. So the answer here can always be taken as x minus y by y into 100. For example, let's say the given question is A's income is what percent more than B's income. A's income is what percent more than B's income. So as you can see here, A's income is being compared with B's income, than B's income. So the answer should be A minus B divided by B into 100. Remember, always in the denominator, y has to be taken, or the value which follows the word than. So A is what percent more than B? A minus B by B into 100. Or sometimes the question may be A's salary is what percent more or less than B's salary. So here simply the two values are given to us, and we are supposed to find out A's salary is what percentage more or less. Now even in that case the answer would be A minus B by B into 100. But remember, the answer that we obtain can be either a negative value or a positive value. So in case when we get a negative sign, it points out that A is percentage less than B. And if the value is positive, then it should be understood that A is more than B. So depending on whether the value is positive or negative, we can understand is x more than y or less than y. Let us now take an example on the concept that we have just discussed. That is, x is what percent more or less than y. It should always be taken as x minus y by y into 100. Let us look at the question given here. A's salary is 25% more than B's salary. Then by what percent is B's salary less than A's salary? And the given options are 25%, 20%, 16.66%, cannot be determined, and the last option is none of this. Now one important point to be understood here is, just because A's salary is 25% more than B doesn't mean that B's salary will be 25% less than A. Some students mark first option 25 as the answer, which is wrong. The point to be understood here is, in case of numbers, when we say x is 5 more than y, y is 5 less than x. But in case of percentages, if x is 5% more than y, doesn't mean that y will be 5% less than x. Or similarly, if x is 10% more than y, doesn't mean that y will be 10% less than x. It can happen only in case of numbers, but not in case of percentages. Similarly, in this case also, if A is 25% more than B, do not mark the answer as B is 25% less than A. It has to be calculated by the concept that we have just discussed. Now, the question here is, what percent is B's salary less than A's salary? The first statement says A's salary is 25% more than B's salary. That means A, when compared with respect to B, we find that it is 25% more. So let us assume that B's income is equal to 100 rupees. B's salary is 100 rupees. Now going by the first statement there, we know that A is 25% more than B. So we can take it as B plus 25% of B. Now this is 100 plus 25% of 100. 25% of 100 is 25. So the A's salary here comes out to be 100 plus 25, 125 rupees. So here very clearly, if B is equal to 100, then A will be equal to 125. And the question is, by what percent is B's salary less than A's salary? We know that x is what percent more or less than y should be taken as x minus y by y into 100. So B is what percent less than A should be taken as B minus A by A into 100. So this will be equal to B, which is 100, minus A 125 divided by A 125 into 100. So this will be equal to minus 25 by 125 into 100, which is 1 by 5. And 1 by 5 into 100 is equal to 20%. And we also have a negative sign here. Remember, as I've mentioned earlier, the negative sign indicates that this is 20% less. So we can say that B's salary will be 20% less than A's salary. So the correct answer here should be option number 2, that is 20%. So if A's salary is 25% more than B's salary, then B's salary will be 20% less than A's salary. So this is how we can solve the question, by assuming that B is equal to 100 and accordingly finding out what is the value of A. Remember, it is not compulsory that we have to take b equals to 100. B can also be taken as 90 or b can be taken as any random value, and accordingly a has to be calculated. Whatever the two values we get here, final answer will always be 20% only. But it is always convenient that we go for b equals to 100 so that calculation of a becomes easy. So this is one way of solving the given question by assuming that b is 100 and accordingly finding out the value of a. The other way in which this question can be solved is simply by converting the given percentage into fraction and again converting the fraction back to percentage. For example, here it says A's salary is 25% more than B. So we can say that A should be equal to B plus 25% of B, as it is 25% more. Now this will be B plus 25% is 1 by 4. So it can be taken as 1 by 4B, which comes out to be 5B by 4. So very clearly A is equal to 5B by 4. If A is equal to 5B by 4, we can say that B will be equal to 4A by 5. And we also know that 4 by 5 will be 80%. So B is 80% of A. Now if you try to understand, B is equal to 80% of A. So very clearly, if B is only 80% of A, we can understand that it is 20% less because it is just 80%. So the answer here should be B is 20% less than A. So this is the second way in which we can solve the given question. Either we assume that B is equal to 100, find out the value of A accordingly, and then use the formula to find out the percentage value. Otherwise, simply convert the given percentage into fraction and again convert the fraction back to percentage to understand what is the percentage difference between two values. So as per your convenience, whichever method is comfortable can be followed. Either you assume B equals to 100 or simply convert the percentages to fractions and get the required answer. Let us now take one more example on the concept that we have just discussed. The question here is the sales of company N is 40% less than that of company T. Then by what percent is the sales of company T more than that of N? So as you can see here, the second example is quite similar to that we have discussed in example 1. But only difference here is the company N sales is 40% less than that of company T, and here we are supposed to find out by what percent is the sales of company T more than that of company N. Now in the previous example, we have discussed two methods to solve these type of questions, and as per your convenience, you can use any one of them to get the answer. Let us go by the second method here to get the answer for this question. That is converting the given percentage into fraction and again converting the fraction back to percentage. For example, here we know that company N is 40% less than company T. So we can say that N will be equal to T minus 40% of T. So this will be equal to, see, T is nothing but 100% of T. So T minus 40% of T will be only 60% of T. And we know that 60% is equal to 6 by 10 in terms of fraction. So 6 by 10 into T, or this can be taken as 3 by 5 T. Now if N is equal to 3T by 5, we can say that T will be equal to 5N by 3. Why? Because 5 goes on the other side, it becomes 5N divided by 3. So T here is 5N by 3. And 5 by 3 is equal to 1.66. So T will be equal to 1.66 times N. And 1.66 is nothing but 166 by 100, which is equal to 166% of N. So we can understand that T is equal to 166% of N. But as the question says, by what percent is the sales of T more than the sales of N? So T we can see here is equal to N plus 66% of N. Right? So we can understand that T is 66% more. So the answer here should be 66% more than N. So this is how the percentage can be taken in terms of fractions, and again the fraction can be converted to percentage to find out how much is one value more or less than the other. Remember friends, in a hurry, don't mark answer as 166%. T is 166% of N doesn't mean that it is 166% more than N. It is only 66% more than N. Why? Because 100% of N will always be there. Extra is 66%. So that is the reason our answer is 66% more.